God's blessings to everyone. This is a DGHradio.com news update for the British Virgin Islands, covering the latest developments from across the British Virgin Islands. It is Monday, October 6th, 2025. Leadership and Diplomacy. Acting Premier, UN Mission. There's a brief change at the helm this week. Honorable Julian Fraser is serving as acting premier, while Premier Dr. Natalia Wheatley travels to New York for meetings of the United Nations Fourth Committee on Decolonization. The government says the acting appointment runs through midweek and is routine under the Constitution whenever the premier is off island. In New York, the premier is scheduled to deliver an update on the BVI's governance reforms and to seek technical support for public education on self-determination options. Side meetings with United Kingdom representatives are also on the agenda. The administration frames the visit as part of wider constitutional modernization, linking stronger transparency at home with constructive engagement abroad. Politics and pay. Greedy bill debate reignites. Compensation for lawmakers is back in the spotlight. Premier Wheatley says whether to give up benefits tied to past versions of the Retiring Allowances Act is a personal choice for each elected member at the end of service, not a decision he plans to take immediately. Supporters of higher compensation argue the package helps attract qualified leaders and offsets private sector opportunity cost. Critics call the benefits tone-deaf during fiscal strain and want a full accounting of any remaining liabilities. The premier says the government will publish figures after consultations as scrutiny intensifies ahead of the next election cycle. Government pay equity, ministers versus senior staff. Related to compensation, ministers have raised the issue of pay equity across government, questioning whether it's fair for some ministers to earn less than senior civil servants they oversee. Advocates for reform say competitive pay helps recruit capable leaders and reduces pressure to seek outside income. Others worry that raising political salaries now could erode public trust. A structured review of salary bands and job responsibilities has been floated, with calls for any changes to be anchored in transparent, independent recommendations. Constitution review, inclusivity in the preamble. Opposition leader Myron Walwyn is urging a more inclusive preamble in the draft constitution, arguing that the opening text should explicitly reflect the Virgin Islands' diverse society while affirming shared values. The government says public dialogue will continue as negotiators prepare the package for talks with the United Kingdom. While the preamble is symbolic, it guides how leaders and courts interpret the Constitution's spirit, touching on identity, belonging, and equal dignity for all residents. Public safety, curfew shortened, state of emergency lifted. Authorities have lifted the state of emergency and shortened the curfew to 10 p.m. through 6 a.m. following a recent run of armed robberies and violent incidents. Police credit community cooperation and targeted operations for stabilizing conditions, but say vigilance remains essential. Businesses are urged to review lighting, cameras, cash handling after hours, and staff safety protocols. Officials emphasize that curfew adjustments are tied to real-time assessments and could change if threats resurface. Crime update, Road Town Bar, shooting victim identified. Police have identified the young man injured during an early morning robbery at a bar near the cruise pier. Family members say he's receiving hospital care locally while they seek funds for possible overseas treatment. Detectives are canvassing for footage and witnesses. The incident has renewed calls for visible policing in nightlife zones, improved street lighting, and reliable camera coverage. Residents are reminded to report suspicious behavior and to share information confidentially when needed. Business security, firearms debate rekindled. In the wake of recent robberies, some business owners are again urging easier access to licensed firearms for self-defense. Advocates say trained, vetted proprietors could deter attacks. Opponents warn that more guns may escalate confrontations and increase risks to bystanders. Lawmakers point to a wider toolkit, faster case updates to build public confidence, targeted patrols, environmental design that removes cover for criminals, and technology that helps investigators close cases swiftly. Jobs, hundreds of vacancies on labor management system. The Department of Labor and Workforce Development reports more than 600 open roles listed on the labor management system. The portal lets applicants build profiles, upload resumes, and schedule interviews, while employers can screen candidates more efficiently. Officials say the data helps identify skill gaps and shape training. Job seekers are urged to register, keep documents current, and look closely at healthcare, hospitality, and technology vacancies where demand is strong. Marine tourism, charter yachts shift home port to BVI. Wayne, the end. The charter industry is gearing up for a busier season. Roughly 90 charter yachts have relocated operations from the U.S. Virgin Islands to the British Virgin Islands, citing customer demand for BVI itineraries and comparative regulatory costs. Industry leaders estimate at least $13 million in direct local spend from the shift, boosting jobs in provisioning, maintenance, cleaning, and hospitality. Officials say the opportunity is significant, but so is the responsibility to protect anchorages and reefs. Expect continued focus on mooring management, waste handling, fuel logistics, and staffing at ports of entry. Commerce and culture, Road Town Market under scrutiny. The revamped Road Town Market is drawing criticism for leaning more toward clothing and imported goods than local produce and craft. City management says the space was designed to support a range of entrepreneurs, while farmers want clearer recruitment and stronger visibility. Advocates suggest reserving stalls for growers, publishing vendor mix targets, and linking market days to restaurant buy local campaigns. The debate highlights a familiar challenge: balancing culture and commerce in a small but dynamic economy. Utilities. Online bill pay temporarily offline. The electricity provider's online payment portal is undergoing upgrades. During the outage, customers can pay in person or through participating bank apps. The utility promises a more stable, user-friendly system when service resumes. No firm return date has been announced, but updates are expected as work progresses. Customers with due dates this week are advised to use alternative channels to avoid late fees. Environmental services. Derelict vehicle removal paused. The Department of Waste Management has paused the removal of abandoned vehicles while it ships out existing stock and secures a new storage site that meets environmental standards. Residents are asked not to deliver vehicles to the current location. Officials acknowledge the inconvenience and say the pause will be as short as possible. The department reminds residents to keep documentation ready for when the program resumes, to streamline processing and reduce costs. Small business, new startup program coming. The Trade Department plans to launch a small business startup program with grants targeted at launches, expansions, and operations, plus mentorship delivered in partnership with the local college. At a recent job fair, officials said the goal is to make entrepreneurship a realistic option for residents facing limited employment opportunities. Applicants should watch for eligibility criteria, training schedules, and required business planning documents as the program rolls out. Marine Stewardship, Police Joint Awareness Campaign. The Police Marine Unit is partnering with a reef conservation organization on a public campaign about protecting coastal waters. Expect to see outreach materials and events explaining rules on fishing, anchoring, and marine park usage, along with training sessions for enforcement officers. The message is simple: safeguarding the ocean is everyone's responsibility, residents and visitors alike, and compliance today preserves livelihoods tomorrow. Health. Off-island isn't always better. Local clinicians are encouraging residents to trust primary and specialist services available here before incurring the cost of off-island care. They say the BVI Health Services Authority has strengthened diagnostics, referrals, and chronic disease management, and that early screening and consistent follow-up can prevent emergencies and shorten recovery, even when tertiary procedures must be done abroad. Health leaders are promising more transparency on equipment status, wait times, and visiting specialist clinics to rebuild public confidence. Food and wellness, choose local when you can. Ahead of October observances that highlight food systems, health advocates say one of the easiest ways to improve nutrition is to buy local produce, fish, and eggs when available. Shorter time from farm and sea to table preserves nutrients and supports small producers. Challenges remain. Supply can be uneven and prices can fluctuate, but predictable demand helps farmers invest in irrigation and cold storage. Schools and community groups are being encouraged to build seasonal menus and practical cooking skills into their programs. Higher education. HLSCC sets a bold course. The new president of H. Lavity Stout Community College, Dr. Richard George, has outlined a vision to elevate the college as a regional leader. Plans include expanding programs in technology, sustainable tourism, financial services, and marine sciences, growing online learning, and strengthening partnerships with employers so students graduate job ready. The college also wants to become a cultural hub, hosting public lectures and research events that engage the wider community. Success will hinge on investment in facilities and faculty recruitment. Youth and culture, Miss Teen BVI crowned. Transparency questions raised. Congratulations to Maya Z. V. Marceline, crowned Miss Teen British Virgin Islands 2025 at the Eileen L. Parsons Auditorium. The pageant continues to be a platform for talent, scholarship, and service. After the event, a contestant's family publicly alleged bias in the judging process, claims the director disputes. Event veterans say clear rubrics, published weightings, and post-event access to score sheets can reduce suspicion and protect teenagers from online backlash. Organizers say they'll review feedback as they plan next year's competition, employment and skills, youth readership, and media training. The Rotary Club of Central Tortola concluded a communications internship that put students in a live radio environment to promote the upcoming reading week. Participants practice writing, voice delivery, and basic production, skills that translate into the classroom and early jobs. Organizers hope to expand the program and link it with library initiatives and school clubs to boost literacy and confidence. Seniors in public health, post-pandemic mortality trends. Fresh data shows a sustained rise in deaths among residents 65 and older since 2020, with the sharpest increases among those 85 and up. Officials point to investments in elder care programs and facilities, but advocates say more home-based support and affordable access to treatment are needed. Community groups are calling for a coordinated plan that tackles chronic disease management, mobility, and social isolation, areas where modest, consistent interventions can make a measurable difference. Business and finance global outreach. Finally, the financial services community continues international outreach. A recent networking event in London brought together BVI officials, legal practitioners, and investors to deepen ties with the UK market and highlight the territory's compliance standards and innovation agenda. Organizers say face-to-face engagement remains vital for maintaining the BVI's competitive edge in a changing regulatory landscape. That's your news update for the British Virgin Islands on Monday, October 6, 2025. I'm your reporter, EVH, signing off for DGHradio.com. Remember, EVH and DGH, together we provide evidence, verification, and honesty as we deliver groundbreaking headlines, because on DGHradio.com, the news never sleeps. Ciao.